Hello everyone, welcome to this week's webinar. As always, we are hosted by Tiffany Green's Golf Club here in Kansas City, Missouri, and we're brought to you by Medicus Golf. Last week we talked about your body, your golf swing, and how to find out the things that your body should be doing based on your biomechanics of your body versus what you perceive you should be doing. So as a follow-up to that, we're going to talk about some things that if your body does a certain thing, what are the other pieces that go along with that? So let's start with what we call the downswing plane or path of the club. So, and I'm going to use this big club, and maybe this will be a better angle, we'll see here. So if I get to the top of the backswing and my lower body starts going this way to the right, you will see when that happens that my shaft, when I get it down to parallel to the ground, is inside my hands. So this club now is traveling what we would refer to as outward. So if my club is going to be traveling outward, I'll face and go this way, that means that my club face and arms need to be working away and rotating. Away and rotating. If they work away with the face staying held up, all the ball's going to do is start to the right and go farther right. If I am coming again, going outward, and I rotate the club, the ball will still start to the right, but my club face is going to be close to the path of my club head. So there'll be a ball that starts to the right for a right-hander and curves back to the left. So now let's say I'm a player that gets down here, and when the shaft gets to parallel, the club is outside my hands when the shaft's parallel. That will be what we would be calling an inward path. So the club head is traveling inward and across the ball this direction. If I'm going to have that path, then my club face needs to feel like it's holding on and not rotating at all, because that's going to start it right, and because it is open to the path of the club head that I'm swinging on, that's going to curve it back to the right. Now in the downswing, if I get down here, my hands are parallel, the club and the hands are parallel when the shaft is level to the ground. At this point, I can just swing over this direction, and you'll see that I'm actually what we would call more online. This, and the face would be half the amount that was rotated going that way, and half more than this way. So the arms and the club are actually working in a release three different ways. They're releasing from inward to outward with the face, what it'll feel like is rolling over. It'll be releasing and coming down from what we refer to as outward to inward, so my hand path would be much more left. And then if my path is online back here, then this is going to be more online on the through side. So it'll be to the right, to the left, and more online. So again, depending on where your club is in the downswing, whether it's behind your hands, in front of your hands, or level with your hands, that's when the shaft is parallel to the ground. Okay, that's going to determine which one of these club face motions you use, and then the path of your arms and club head. So now let's talk about what your body's going to do to affect some of these things. So again, a lot of people will say, or they think that when they get to the top, that their hips will now fire forward and they'll be standing up and out of posture. And when you do that, again, what happens is the club wants to tip backwards this way. The face is extremely open, which requires that hand manipulation. Then you get the players that get up here and they don't have enough lower body action to start. They don't get the weight left. All right, so which is key number 3. But what happens is they start the upper body and the club works outward and across now. So if I'm up here and now my upper body takes over, my lower body hangs back, you can see the club's coming outward to inward, and that's how I have to hold that face to get it to cut back to target. So you want to make sure when you're doing this, you want to make sure that your body, as we talked last week, when we put the club across our body like this, we made a backswing. Okay, so just turn your hips. Right, we want to leave your head steady. So we're going to turn the hips, and I turn more in the middle. Some players will turn more into their right hip, and some players will turn more into their left hip. It doesn't matter which one it is. Whatever it does, that's how you should be moving your hips in the backswing. So there's a misconception that if you stay on your left hip, or feel like you turn on your left hip, that you won't get any pressure. Well, if I turn on my left hip, I'm putting a ton of pressure into my right foot, right leg. So while it may look like I'm staying on my left hip, I'm actually putting a lot of pressure over here. So it's also very simple to do, to move pressure into this leg and to maintain a steady head, or what we refer to as a centered pivot. So I'm moving a lot of weight into here, but I'm keeping my pivot centered. I don't have to do this and lean that far left. So again, pay attention to what your body is telling you that you need to do. All right, so now let's talk about a couple other things. A really good way for you to feel how your body should work through the swing, how your body, arms, and hands should work together, is actually a little dowel drill. You can get one of these at Home Depot. And Andrew Rice down in South Carolina did this drill, and it's really a good one. So if I lay this tip of this stick back here, and I'll show you what it looks like from this angle, and I just move my arms, you can see how my arms start folding and falling away, and my chest doesn't turn at all. I mean, it's not turning at all. So what you want to feel is that you're going to move this club forward, which moves, actually what's going to happen is you move your arms and your hand with the pull of the club. Is you want to feel your upper body start moving this forward. When you do that, it looks more like this. You see how your body and chest, everything is releasing and going around to the left here. So the other key aspect of that is the left shoulder. When you start moving this thing down, your left shoulder needs to work not only upward, but inward. And inward would be this direction, staying against this stick. If I hold it level like this, not working it up and around, because that'll throw you backwards. So it's working upward, inward. So again, that's what this drill does. Upward, inward. Same thing from here. Here's the upward, here's the inward. See, if you just go up, you'll see that it just does this. Club's going to want to move out to the right. If it just goes in without the up, now you have Mr. and Mrs. Haverkamp. Okay, and then believe me, that is not a peach. Okay, so pay attention to what your body's doing. Watch your relationships between club face, right? Between the club face, the club head, this whole piece, and your body. Remember, your hands are the only thing holding on to this club. So where they go and how they function are going to have a direct result on what this club face is doing. And we have this drill all the time. In fact, I've had, all morning long, I've had basically people with the very same problem. Their grips did not match what they needed to do. So here's how you find that out. You just take your normal grip, hold that club out to where it's level with your left shoulder, and now try to rotate your hand to the ground. All right, so now I have my neutral grip is on there. You can see how this edge, the leading edge, is level to the ground. So that tells me that that's where my hand's going to go. Now let's say I'm somebody who had a really, really strong grip. Okay, so now I do that same drill. Well, guess what? Now this is way too down for me. So that's going to equal a club face that just over-rotates way too much. So again, hold it out, straight in line with your left shoulder, with the face straight up and down. Turn the face, or turn your hand. So I'm trying to put my palm to the sky as much as I can. If that leading edge is level to the ground, then your left hand's in a good position for you. So let's say I had my grip too weak. All right, so this would be what it would look like. I have it way over here to the left. And now I do that same drill. See, I can't get that down there. So what I would do is I take my right hand and grab the club. I would loosen the left hand just enough to rotate this down to level and then turn it back. So my neutral grip, for me, looks like this. And again, here's the reason. My hand wants to come back to this location. If I swing the club, it wants to come back to this location. If I have my hand turned to the right too far, and now it comes back to its neutral location, that club face is closed. If I have it too weak and it wants to come back to its natural location, in my case, which would be turned more to the right, that face is going to face or point to the right. So it's very important that this hand controls that club face, and so it's important how you put it on there to determine what your neutral grip is. So once I have that grip on, right, then all I have to do is add my right hand. And your right hand can vary from being more on top like this. And again, this is what happens. If you do this little drill we did last week, and your right hand is pointed down like this, then that's how it needs to set on the club. So when you do go like this, the club face stays square to what we call to the arc, right? And wham. So pay a lot of attention to what your body's doing. Stand in front of a mirror, rehearse. I can't tell you how many thousands of hours players stand in front of mirrors. The best players in the world in their hotel room, because they all have mirrors in there, will stand in front of a mirror and they will work on what they're trying to do with their golf swing, or work on a certain feel or a certain look. They're all doing this because they can practice that in the hotel room. I want to thank you all for coming. I would ask that for next week's webinar, and next week's webinar, by the way, is going to paraphrase from my friend John Dunnigan up in Philly, it's going to be called Slice Busters. For those of you that are slicing, we're going to show you how not to slice next week. Get some questions ready, send those in, and I'll try to answer your questions next week. So until then, see y'all.